Good morning. We should start here in a few minutes. Thank you for joining the Cascade Q4 Conservation Advisory Group meeting. Good morning. This is the Conservation Advisory Group Q4 meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody to our call. I apologize for the tone of my voice. This is Monica Kalash. I manage Cascade's energy efficiency programs. I'm going to rely pretty heavily on my team today to help me get through this advisory group meeting. Hopefully my voice will last for it. If you have any problems, please let us know as far as hearing any of the speakers or accessing any of the materials that were sent out ahead of this advisory group meeting. I'm sharing right now the slides. You should be able to see them. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Des to go through a couple of logistics for us. If you'd be kind enough, Des.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to let everybody know that this meeting has started recording and also started transcription, and that will continue throughout the meeting. First of all, let's go ahead and start with a safety moment. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is Halloween safety tips. Being October, yep, it's that time of month. So each year, the poison centers from around the country manage numerous exposure cases involving Halloween-related substances, such as candy, glow sticks, and special cosmetics. Here's some simple precautions adults can take to avoid poisonous exposures and ensure that the children have a safe holiday. First of all, dry ice. This does get used from time to time during this holiday. Handle dry ice properly and carefully. Oral and skin exposure or ingestion of dry ice can cause significant damage. Do not store dry ice in the freezer or an unventilated area. Candy and treats. Inspect all candy for any signs of tampering, tears, pinholes, discoloration, etc., before eating or allowing children to eat. Check all candy and edibles for choking hazards. Cosmetics. Test the face makeup in a small area of the skin first, preferably on the arm, to check for any allergic reactions before applying it to the face. Avoid decorating the face or body with products that aren't intended for the skin. Throw out any makeup that has a bad smell. This could be a sign of contamination. And then glow sticks. Remind children not to chew on or break open glow sticks or any other glow in the dark products. While the liquid is considered minimally toxic in small amounts, it can cause skin irritation. Swallowing glow stick liquid can cause nausea and burning. Eyes are especially sensitive to glow stick liquid. Never put these products in the microwave. And if you have any questions or if you or someone you know has been exposed to a potentially harmful substance, call the Poison Helpline immediately at 1-800-222-1222. So that is the safety moment. So thank you for joining us. I'd like to take a moment to go over the roll call. So if we can just start, I'm going to go down alphabetically. So first of all, we have myself. I'm Desiree. I'm with the Energy Efficiency Department. I'm the consumer specialist, and I enjoy being here. I have been here since December. Amy?
Hey everyone, Amy Wheelis with the Northwest Energy Coalition. Good to see everyone today.
Thank you, Amy. Lexi? Lexi, you there? You're on mute. Okay, we can skip Lexi for now. We'll go back to her. Carrie?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carrie Buren. I'm the Energy Efficiency Supervisor with Cascade. Welcome.
There you are, Lexi. Thank you, Carrie. Go ahead, Lexi.
No, I'm sorry. I accidentally pressed my mic.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Lexi Bright. I'm the Energy Efficiency Analyst Outreach Coordinator 2. And I just joined the team in July. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you.
Corey Dahl?
Hi, I'm Corey, and I am with the Public Counsel Unit of the Attorney General's Office. And as a heads up, I am writing testimony for another proceeding, so I may be in and out in terms of participation.
Thank you, Corey. Monica?
Good morning, Monica Kalasha. As I mentioned, I manage Cascade's energy efficiency programs, especially for Washington. And just so you know, normally I would be on camera. Nobody wants to see me today, so I'm off camera. If anyone would like to pop on camera for their intro or when they're speaking, please feel free. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica. Brady.
Good morning. I'm Brady Day with TRC Companies and the program manager for the commercial industrial program.
Thank you, Brady. Gil.
Hi, this is Gil Peach. I sometimes do consulting work for the company.
Thank you, Gil. And Jade. Welcome, Jade.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is Jade Jarvis, a regulatory analyst with the Washington UTC. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jade. Pardeep.
Good morning, everyone. I am a rebate processor at the Cascade Natural Gas at Bellingham.
Thank you, Pardeep. Ted.
Good morning, Ted McCammett, Manager Energy Services here at Cascade, serving Washington and Oregon.
Thank you, Ted. Sheila.
Sheila McElhenney, Senior Analyst, Energy Efficiency, Cascade Natural Gas. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Sheila. Taylor.
Good morning, Taylor Mead, and I'm a support specialist for Cascade.
Thank you, Taylor. Jocelyn.
Good morning. My name is Jocelyn Moore. I'm with Cascade Natural Gas as an energy efficiency support specialist.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Michael.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Mike Parvinen. I'm with Cascade Regulatory Team.
Thank you, Michael. Peter.
Hey, good morning. Peter Christlight from NIA. I'm the manager of the gas portfolio. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Peter. Stephanie.
Good morning. Stephanie Reed, Energy Efficiency, Cascade Natural Gas, Conservation Support Specialist.
Thank you, Stephanie. Liz.
Good morning. Liz Reichart, Senior Energy Policy Specialist at the Washington Department of Commerce. Happy Energy Efficiency Day.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Today is Energy Efficiency Day, October 5th. So thank you, Liz. Caleb.
Hey, good morning. It's a great day then. My name is Caleb Reimer, Economic Analyst with Cascade.
Thank you, Caleb. Brian.
Hey, everyone. This is Brian Robertson, Supervisor of Resource Planning, and I'm also here at the Kennewick General Office with a few others. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yeah,
okay.
This is Ashton Michael Davis. I'm with the IRP team here in Kennewick.
Good morning, Devin McReel, also with the IRP team in Kennewick.
And Mark Sellers-Vaughn is also here, but he had to step out.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
Yep.
John.
Hey, thank you, Des. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm John Storvik, conservation analyst with Cascade Natural Gas. And yeah, looking forward to the meeting.
Thank you, John. And we have someone that has called in. If you'd like to introduce yourself at 503-351-8578.
That's probably Gil. My computer's not working for sound, so I'm on the phone also.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Gil. So that is the introductions for everybody. So thank you all for that. And as mentioned, well, thank you for joining us on this very special day. October 5th is Energy Efficiency Day. So thank you. Now we will start going to the Q3 meeting notes. Monica, you ready? How's your voice?
I'm ready. I appreciate it. Thank you, Des. That was great.
You're welcome.
As Des mentioned, it is Energy Efficiency Day. So what better day to have an advisory group meeting than on Energy Efficiency Day? Really appreciate everyone's continued interest in our programs. Jade, really excited to have you on board as well. And of course, our standard Conservation Advisory Group members, thank you as always. And we had our safety moment, so I really appreciate that, Des. Oops, I don't think I have a slide here. Sorry, I know I'm clicking through them. I don't have a slide for our meeting notes from last time, but I did include the link on the agenda if you'd like to take a look at that. I also wanted to mention, as we look at those notes from our last meeting, that we now have, obviously there's the link where you can click on them on our website. We mentioned that that went live, I think at the end of last year, we started doing that. But we now also have notification to the public as well on our Cascade website. You should be seeing this, I think. Des, can you let me know if everyone's seeing the website here?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. So we have notified the public, trying to, gain a little more interest and participation in our advisory group meetings about, well, obviously the advisory group meeting, and then we have our link to past notes as well. So this is something that we're going to be doing as a precursor to each of our quarterly meetings. Notification is a banner on our main CNGC website. Here's the notice. Anyone can send us an email. We are also going to be available both in person and remotely for some of our meetings moving forward. We did have that as an option this time. We have a great setup in the room now. We made sure, this is a request from the energy project previously, that we have accessibility the same for both those within the room and those participating remotely. So we do have the technology now, thanks to, in great part to both Jocelyn for the setup and John for the research. We have the technology now to be able to support that. We have a setup in our space within the Bellingham office as well to support accessible participation, let's say, from both remote and in-person folks. So didn't work out for this meeting, but certainly looking forward to the new year being able to have additional participation for anyone comfortable in person and the remote option as well. So thank you, Jocelyn, so much for that. Looking forward to seeing that. And of course, as I mentioned, we're going to have more messaging as we committed to make sure that the public knows about these meetings. So we'll look at some additional opportunities outside of just on our website. Maybe we can push it through social media as well. Anyway, I'm going to click on here just so you can see the information about the Conservation Advisory Group. Feel free to, click your own, but essentially this just goes to the same page that shows the videos of our last meeting. And then we also have the meeting notes that Desiree is kind enough to consolidate for us. So you should have access to that. I don't know if I necessarily need to go through this whole thing. Does anyone have any questions about what we went through during the last quarter, comments, corrections to the notes, anything like that?
Doesn't sound like it.
I'm not hearing any either. Just in brief, we went through our quarterly update as we normally would. Obviously, we talk about commercial and residential in those. We had a follow-up for me. That's an action item that I was going to follow up with Heather or on some information that Heather had forwarded. And then we had our low-income discussion. Sheila was going to send an invite to Heather Moline for all agency meeting once the date and time is determined. We'll talk about when we're actually going to set that meeting in Sheila's low-income discussion here shortly. The energy project was unable to send a representative to our meeting this week, but they said, or today, excuse me, but they said that they would follow up with us if they have any questions. So Sheila, we can get into that when we talk about the low-income side. I did have one question for you, Jade.
Yeah, go for it, Monica.
Okay, so Heather wanted to be notified when we sent that. Should we just kind of flip that over to letting you know, see if you're interested in participating in that as well, or should we still include Heather on that notification?
You can probably CC her on it and just send it over my way.
Okay, that sounds good. Sheila, if you could please note that.
Thank you.
Duly noted.
Perfect. Thanks, Sheila. And then obviously we just talked about, I think there's a little bit of an echo. I might have lost somebody. Okay, so we talked about our annual report, of course, just the update from John, did an IRP update. We talked about SEM, thanks to Brady, and then our builder program trends. And we went into our EM&V process and timeline. Caleb will have an update on that this week or during this meeting as well. And then we talked about a potential schedule for the rest of the year for CAG meetings. Okay, since there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and move off of this back to our slides. As I mentioned, everybody should have a copy of the agenda. We're going with the new format we started last time, where I'm not actually sharing the agenda, just the slides. If anyone has questions on that agenda, please shoot me a note, or anybody else, and we can in Teams here, and we'd be happy to go over the specific agenda as well if there are questions. In the meantime, I'm going to mention we're going to go through our quarterly updates here. I do have a couple of guests that are going to be joining us around 10:30 to go over some of those residential, or one of the residential pilots that we wanted to talk about today. It might require a little shift in our agenda to make sure that those guests can be available for that discussion. That's just a forewarning. But in the meantime, Brady, can I depend on you to start the commercial highlights for me here?
You got it.
Thank you, sir.
So good morning, everyone. So this is an update on the commercial program for Q3. The quarter finished with 85,155 therms for the quarter itself, bringing the total to 156,529. The goal for the program for this year is 419, 461 off of the top of my head. So we're at about 37% of goal. Through quarter three. We had a pretty slow start. We did expect that most of the projects that we had identified in Q1 and Q2 to close would be pushed based on supply issues, and that indeed came true. We had about the number of projects that we were anticipating for Q3, and Q4 is already off to a very big start, as we had a large number of projects, a total of 7 projects totaling almost 86,000 therms, which is more than we achieved in Q3, that have already been submitted and will be part of the Q4 numbers. So kind of big picture, we have been very slow to start. We are trending towards about 70% of goal for the entire year. That does include that has the inclusion of those projects that we've submitted, as well as other identified projects, and puts us just around 300,000 therms, again, out of the 419,461 therms that was the goal. So any questions on the numbers specifically before I talk about some of the other information? Okay. One thing worth noting, we're slightly ahead of where the program was in 2021 in terms of percentage to goal. As a reminder, we did reach goal in 2021. At this point, we're not anticipating reaching goal, as one of the projects, we had a large project last year that we were expecting to close in Q4 and did. So we're not necessarily expecting another big project that we're at this point unaware of, but that's kind of where we're at right now. So cool. So I will move on to talking about the outreach efforts. We have done a lot of work with engaging in harder to reach communities. In particular, that includes kind of the southern part of Zone 2, which is the Longview, Kelso area, where we've had much lower participation as compared to other areas in Q2, as well as, or Zone 2, excuse me, as well as Zone 1 and Zone 3. So we've increased engagement there, and we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes to the pilots. But we've also done some outreach to the Spanish-speaking community. We've done that through some audio streaming ads. We've devoted about 50% of our efforts on the audio streaming side to, or excuse me, about 33, about a third of our effort to the Spanish-speaking audience. And so this streaming campaign has been very successful with listen-through rates in the 95, 96, 97% range. We do have a meeting to kind of go through the results of the entire campaign, as it did end last week on the 30th of September. But we've had really good success in terms of listen-through rates. Any questions on that?
Brady, I would just mention that we did play that ad during the last advisory group meeting, so I'm not playing it this time. But we'd be happy to forward that along to anybody if they're interested and weren't able to hear it last time.
And we do continue to focus, and again, we'll talk a little bit about the midstream program and its relationship to tankless water heaters. This is just some of the outreach pieces that is on the screen now that we have done to promote tankless water heaters. So we do offer that tankless unit through both our midstream program, which is a distributor model, as well as to the end user. So talk a little bit more about that when it comes to pilots.
Should I go back to one of the other slides then?
I don't think so. I was just going to talk kind of about the strategy moving forward for the program.
Okay. Do you want me to go to that one?
It is. Oh, yeah, I guess we did kind of go through all this. So we've worked to put together a recovery plan for the program. Again, looking at it as a 2-year cycle. Right now, we're trending towards about 70% as well for the overall 2-year goal. But we have done a lot of work and done a lot of specific new initiatives and some rekindling of old initiatives to get the program, I don't say back on its feet, because this has been a kind of regular trend for commercial industrial programs as a whole. But and I'll talk a little bit about some of the initiatives in the pilot section. But as you can imagine, over the last couple of years, there has been a significant drop-off in in-person visits. The program is beginning to ramp that up again. I wouldn't say that we ever completely abandoned in-person visits. It just was more at the customer's request as opposed to more drop-bys and reaching out to intentionally schedule meetings. So we are going to, I already have started re-engaging customers on a one-on-one basis. So we have already started that in August, and those numbers will be reflected certainly in September and October's reports moving forward. We've also done a little bit more trade ally outreach. The program has a very robust trade ally program. Some are residential only, but we have a lot of commercial customers or commercial trade allies that we engage with regularly, and then we have some that have kind of gone a little bit untouched or less touched than we'd like. So we have already started re-engaging trade allies. Again, this is all part of the strategy to get the program back on track and help to close that gap for the 2-year savings cycle. We have also implemented, I'm doing ride-alongs with each of the BD business development staff members. This kind of gives me, I do a lot of outreach myself individually, but this gives me an opportunity to not only see what the staff is hearing, but also interact with customers and learn a little bit more about kind of the business climate and how we can adjust and make changes moving forward. So, and then probably I don't say the biggest thing, but it's something that we have done in the past, which are key accounts. And so each of the areas or business developers in the areas that they cover have about 10 key accounts, and we have assigned those and are working through those for they're specifically targeted, I would say, mostly with big users, because as a big part of closing that gap for the 2-year savings cycle, we know we're going to have some big projects as a part of that. So reaching out to those biggest users, trying to meet with them quarterly, if not more frequent, and making sure that as they start doing their planning for budgets and cycles and things like that, that they know and are aware of the programs that we offer, both on the custom side and on the prescriptive side. So we have a whole slew of activities. There's a lot more that I didn't mention, but I kind of wanted to hit the highlights of those specific initiatives to get the program back on track and plan to reach the goal for the 2022-2023 biennium. So. Any questions? Yeah, Monica.
Thanks, Brady. I wanted to set a little context, like at a regional level, if I may. Um, when we've been speaking with Brady and the TRC team for a couple months now, as it was looking, especially when that obviously that one project that was fairly large got pushed to the next year. But more than that is really looking at it at a regional level. We've heard that supply chain is an issue for Cascade. Is that something that's happening with other utilities, or is that something that was, focused on our territory? And in doing this research, I spoke with one of the VPs for TRC, and he gave me a little context on what they're seeing with some of their other utilities or some other utilities that they're working with. So if you look at it like, say, 10 different programs. We're looking at both gas and electric and gas. So some both, at that regional level, not all of them, and the majority, let's say, are not looking to meet goal. This is not obviously everybody's looking to meet goal. I don't mean that, but actually forecasting to meet goal. When you really look at it, less than half are likely going to make goal, and specifically for Cascade, this isn't from his perspective, but for Cascade, I was speaking with Energy Trust and asking about our programs in Oregon, and on the commercial side, they're maybe going to make 70% of our commercial goal. Overall, at the portfolio level, they're looking at about 84% of goal for this year. So this is definitely something that's not just, Cascade, Washington. It's happening at a regional level. And it's not just the Northwest either. I mean, down through California as well. Some of these gas and electric programs aren't looking at actually making goal. Maybe some of the agricultural ones are, but really overall, it's a fairly significant trend that there's external factors that are prohibiting it. With that in mind, to Brady's point and all these items that he's just listed that they're working on, we asked TRC to really look at the KPIs, those key performance indicators, and provide us with strategic performance metrics that we could talk to the advisory group about. And what are those KPIs that we're really tracking, and how are we going to have a recovery plan for what we're going to need at the end of the biennium? And that's exactly what Brady was just going through, is some of those KPIs, key performance indicators. The first thing that we look at is identifying what the KPI is, and again, to Brady's point, that in-person visit, that's one of those KPIs that we were looking at tracking. And then describing the key aspect of that KPI and what the performance attribute is going to measure. So in that case, it's outreach to in-person visits and meetings, right? So that's the next level of that KPI. And then describing that KPI measurement method, the units and the frequency. So again, how many more per month per business development representative are we going to be tracking? And then from that, describing the target, right? So you're like, what is the expected outcome of this increased participation? So for the program duration in each year of the program, how many business development folks are going to be there? This should result in X amount of visits, which means so many meetings per month, with the goal of how many X amount of new projects. So, a goal of, say, 16 new projects per month. And then why is this KPI, how is it going to change the course of results of where we're going with this recovery plan? And that's, again, to Brady's point, we haven't had the opportunity for quite some time to have these in-person meetings. And so because our program is so driven by this in-person communication to really, get uptake on the program, the intention is that it's going to significantly increase and result in more projects, which equals more funds. So that's just an example of one of the KPIs that we're tracking, but I wanted the advisory group to have insights into, obviously Cascade's not just sitting back and saying, yep, everyone's missing their goals, hands up, we can't do anything about it. We're definitely, digging into it with TRC, and Brady has really got a good grasp on this. On what are the next steps so that we can make sure that we do meet the biennium, and we can't sit back. We know we need to really pick things up, and these are the specific items that they're discussing and planning on doing. Brady, did I misstate anything there, or is that kind of in alignment?
No, not at all. And I can give you a good example. I was doing a ride along with one of our colleagues up in Stanwood, and we kind of had a list of businesses that we were going to talk to, and then we kind of hit those businesses, and then I said, okay, well, let's just park here and walk up and down the road. And we literally went from door to door to door, making sure they're qualified customers, of course, but and managed to get a project just out of dropping in. They had recently installed a tankless water heater and had no idea that the program existed. So obviously that means we need to do better promotion of the program. But it also is a good example of, again, a small tankless water heater is alone, or even a dozen of those is not going to fix or adjust, these numbers significantly. But when you do that over and over again, and then again, along with some of the other initiatives that I talked about and some of those that I didn't, but that we are focused on, we feel pretty good about changing the course of the direction of the program and continuing to identify those projects moving forward and growing the program as a whole. So I do work pretty closely with my colleagues in other states, and we have come up with, even since I've put this together, we have some other ideas of some things that are either working or being tried around the country to achieve gas goals, as just about everybody seems to be in a similar state, as Monica said. So I think that's it for me, and thank you for that summation, Monica. Sorry you had to talk so much, but I appreciate the context.
No, I appreciate it, Brady. And this is actually where I would really like some of our advisory group members to weigh in. If there are concerns, or if you've got some context on your experience with some of the other programs in the region. Jade, maybe, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we haven't had an opportunity to speak to this point with you yet. This is the first time that Cascade is working on the biennium. No, I don't want to say biennium forecast, but always look 2 years out, right? But we're actually the first time we're working under that BCP umbrella from the commission. And obviously, that the annual goals are a priority. That's obviously something we need to meet when we can, with the biennium being the end all be all in that case. But can I get some context from you on how you think that this is affecting the region or the commission, or what you're hearing from some of our other regional peers?
Yeah, I can provide a little bit of context from from where I'm sitting, working with the other utilities right now. Cascade's not alone. We're seeing forecasts below goal for pretty much all of the programs right now. So this isn't unique to Cascade. It's something we're talking about quite a bit at the commission, considering that this does seems to be an issue where conservation is getting harder and harder to acquire on top of these economic pressures. But I can't say I have any solutions or anything like that. But yeah, definitely something that we're seeing across the board and continuing to talk about.
Great, I appreciate that context, Jade. Is there any specific directive from the commission level on things that we should be looking at in addition, or anything along those lines? I know that's kind of a general comment. Obviously, like I said, we're really digging into the KPIs and our recovery plan, looking out to that 2-year horizon, on the annual level, on the Cascades 2022 accomplishment level. Is there anything you can recommend that we specifically do, or just kind of keep the advisory group informed on our next steps and those action plans? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, I don't have anything for you specific right now, unfortunately. I can try to get back to you on that specifically, but yeah, right now I would just say stay the course and keep us updated on those action items.
Perfect. I thank you so much. And again, I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I definitely appreciate the context. Any other feedback from the region? Amy, I'm not sure if you're hearing anything different from your side of the shop, or even Liz from the Department of Commerce perspective.
Sorry, Monica, can you restate that?
Yeah, Amy, I was just wondering what you're hearing at that regional level on program accomplishments from other utilities, or if you have any recommendations for Cascade, considering that our commercial program is not forecasting to meet goal this year, as we're finding a lot of other utilities are. And obviously, this is our
Yeah,
many of the steps, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not like hearing it consistently. The, I guess I am hearing from the other IOUs that they're feeling, a little under, but more from the residential side, at least anecdotally. I guess I haven't heard commercial projects. I like for Pacificor, I know like their commercial program is sort of pulling along the residential program, for example. So and regionally, I haven't yeah, I guess I haven't heard it as consistently, though I understand, in a economically challenging time, the energy efficiency is not like first choice for a lot of projects. So I'm afraid I don't have much to offer you right now, Monica.
No, that's fair. I appreciate the context. Thank you, Amy. Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Brady on the commercial industrial program status update for the year? I'm not hearing anything. Thank you very, very much for that, Brady. I appreciate the obviously the update, and then the next steps, next plans for what we're doing moving forward. So we talked about the outreach already. I believe that brings us to the residential program highlights. See here. Not going to be nearly as succinct as Brady was. I apologize. Jocelyn, please do weigh in if I butcher anything as we go through this. Okay. Jocelyn, as always, is the brains behind putting this together for us, and she's got a really great grasp of where we're at on the residential front. Cascade's team has paid 800 rebate applications. We've saved 74,800 and some therms through the third quarter of 2022. Obviously, that's not all the way to the end of September, because we have to have a point in time where we can stop the tally so that we can report our savings potential, our savings accomplishments, excuse me. Our queue, we're getting a couple more applications in than we were previously, so I think that the queue is healthy right now. We're right at that time of the year where it's starting to grow again, getting increased submissions, which is good. We need to see that to be able to meet our goal. We actually received 802 applications in quarter three. It is higher than the 3-week average for quarter three, so that's a good thing. So far in 2022, we've had a 11% increase in applications compared to that 3-year average. So again, that's a good sign. And we've also seen an increase in the submission rates compared to the year before. So to last year, not just that 3-year average, but the year before. I guess the increase. See here. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of looking at it as we go through this. Let's see. We've got a couple of things that we have done to increase that the submission rates. One of them being a really strong focus on our point of sale program, providing customized hands-on customer service to our trade allies, making it easier for them to help the customers apply, and then making it kind of top of mind, and then getting those applications in really quickly with that point of sale program. I think I've got a slide here as well, demonstrating some of the increased uptake in the POS program. We also have the public user experience portal. So that's our online application portal for our customers. That has improved significantly in the last year. And we've made it quite a bit simpler, and trying to make it just a more accessible to the customers, right? You get in there, you apply, you're done. Not having to kind of go back and forth with it. And I think that's really increased the participation level from customers on the platform versus, but our program has been very dependent on hard copy applications. I'm not sure if that's because we are a very rural customer base, if that weighs into it or what, but we wanted to make sure to make that electronic submission more accessible to our customers, and there's been a lot of work from the team to do that in the last year. Let's see here. I'm just looking at the notes. We do have, there is the note here, and this is kind of important to keep in mind. The increase in submission rates are offset by the average therms per application falling. And that's, I think there's a couple of things that weigh into that. Partially because of our builder engagement, as we mentioned last year, and I think actually this year, John's talked about it a couple different times. The total therms per application are actually lower, partially because we don't have as many builders participating. The code is not conducive to natural gas homes necessarily anymore. So with the lower therms per application, when you're doing a single upgrade versus like a whole home submission, it just lowers the average for the savings potential for our program. So I think that's part of it. And it might shift a little bit in Q4, as Jocelyn had noted, as we get back to that heating season and we see some of the higher therm savings applications being submitted. We also, added some new measures in our tariff change back in, February? I think it was April actually. And then we did change some existing measure savings in April, which actually did lower the therm savings per application as well. So just kind of bringing us into alignment with our conservation potential assessment. And so that kind of lowers this therm savings per application. Before I continue, are there any questions? I don't just want to keep talking. Questions, comments, clarifications from my team? Okay. I think I see a note that Liz had to jump off for a moment. Okay. So to the point, let me see here. We've got, for the year, we are currently at 56% of goal. Currently, 67% of the 3-year average incentive, 56% compared to the 67%. We are forecasting to reach about 90% of our residential goal for the year by year end. Again, that's attributed to the submissions we're getting. That's, how quickly we can process those rebates. We are dependent on getting those applications in. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the therm savings per application are lower than they have been in previous years. So we're keeping a very close eye on it. We're obviously not slowing down. As of right now, we're actually not forecasting to meet the goal by the end of the year. Let's see here. I mentioned the PUX, which is that public user experience. There's a couple of numbers here that I'd like to bring to your attention. They're from the agenda. We had 451 PUX applications successfully submitted compared to 368 applications over the same period in 2021. That's a significant increase. That's an almost 23% increase in applications so far for the year. So I think that's a good indication that the improvements that we made to that public user experience, that online application, have been successful. It's expected that we're going to get higher submission rates. They'll probably plateau, but we do think it's going to continue to be higher than that older version of our online application moving. So obviously we'll continue to support customers. We're promoting it on our website. We continue to promote it in the outreach materials. So it's always a good indication. I'm going to stop there. Carrie, did you have something to add, please?
Yeah, thank you, Monica. I just want to acknowledge and recognize the work that the team has done, particularly the folks working with the trade allies, and that's Des and Stephanie and Sheila. Stephanie has taken a white glove approach to the point of sale. Excuse me. And really, in this post-COVID, I think that extra attention pays exceptional dividends in terms of people, our partners, having confidence in the process and trying to turn in these rebates for their customers when everyone is understaffed. So we are doing our part, I think, to generate these, and I think it's a real reflection, a very positive reflection on the team and the work that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. That's an excellent lead in and into the next slide. You 1 second here. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cough on the phone here. Carrie, did you have something? Oh no, you dropped your hand. Okay. So with that point in mind, let's just kind of touch on that POS, that point of sale update. You know, we started this, I think it was 2 years ago. Chris Fork had started you know, the pilot where we were working with just a couple of our point of sale customers or trade allies, excuse me, really promoting them to use this point of sale discount for customers to remove that initial cost barrier to install the higher efficiency equipment. Point of sale, as a reminder, is where the contractor has the ability to offer the rebate to the customer as a discount on the initial installation versus having to apply for a rebate after the fact. I know some of the other utilities, that's mostly how they operate is as point of sale. I think PSE might be one of them. Please correct me if I'm incorrect in stating that, but I understand that a lot of theirs are point of sale discount. For Cascade, we started the pilot, like I said, a couple of years ago. A couple of considerations from the contractor's perspective is that it, while it gives them kind of a foot in the door to be able to remove that cost barrier for that higher efficiency piece of equipment, there is a little bit of liability on the contractor side of the shop. So they have to be very familiar with our programs. They have to be comfortable with the company, with Cascade's commitment to paying them back for that discount in a timely fashion, so that they're not left holding the ball for that additional cost. And ultimately, if they offer a rebate to a customer and that customer is then ineligible, they are potentially, if they offered it in error, then they're potentially on the line for the difference in the cost. So we want to make sure that those contractors are very well informed about our programs, so that they're supported if they have questions about what's eligible and what isn't, and that they have that direct point of contact. So Stephanie Reed has taken on the role of working from that point of sale perspective and making sure that these contractors are getting the information they need to be able to offer them to the customers, making sure that everything that they provide us meets our requirements, of course. And the benefits of the program from that point of sale show that not only are these applications more often than we would otherwise see entered correctly, or at least filled out correctly. And maybe that's not the right way to phrase it, Stephanie, you can kick me under the table, but more like they know what we're looking for, and they're making sure that they have all of the pertinent information on hand, ready to go, and they submit it because they want these to go through quickly as well. So we are able to expedite payment on these because we have more of the information right off the bat. We're not having to go back as frequently for missing information, which really helps with the processing time. In addition, from Cascade's perspective, it's a cleaner application, so it goes through faster. We have experience with these contractors, so we know the quality of the work. We're helping the customers, right off the bat, and they're not having to circle back around with us for the rebate. So there's a lot of benefits for the point of sale, and we need to make sure that we actually support those contractors so that they continue to do it. So what you're seeing here is a slide of the increase in point of sale of what we've seen since 2019. So I mean, the far left bar is the 2019 participation for a point of sale program. You see 2020, obviously COVID had an impact as it did for everything. But if you look at 2022, what we really want to highlight is submission rates for point of sale for June, July, August, and September of 2022. You see just a huge jump there in that participation. Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you, Monica. I think one of the things to point out is this team is really an advocate for shell measures, and we have a point of sale trade ally who's doing a lot of business over in the Tri-Cities on insulation, and they're very, very busy, and it's a great thing for our customers. And part of this increase is attributable to that particular trade ally.
That is an excellent point. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, to Carrie's point, there's a contractor that is doing the business model where it's going door to door, which has been a little bit tricky in the past when we've had other contractors trying that particular business model. This one has been working really, really closely with the team to make sure that they're meeting all program requirements, that, it's not just rush in, install insulation, and then rush out, and then, you're not there to support the customer afterwards if they have any questions, comments, or quality control concerns. So this has been a lot of hand-holding from our team. The contractor went through a waiting period before they were allowed to do point of sale, so we could make sure that we were comfortable with the quality. Sheila's been really great about scheduling inspections on that work specifically to make sure that they're maintaining the quality. As this has progressed. So we're very happy with how that's working and the support that we're getting, and able to provide that contractor to be able to help more customers. And I think this is mostly in the Tri-Cities area. So it's exciting to see, both from an increase in participation, being able to see more customers actually taking that holistic approach to their energy efficiency savings. And then also, if you look at the numbers in the agenda, we have, it's like 330 point of sale rebate applications in 2022, which is over 100 applications higher than 2021. And we're not through 2022 yet. My understanding is, we're getting submissions every other day or something from this contractor of insulation work that they're performing for customers now. So really exciting to see that increase. It's a way for us to support and branch out. It's some of that quote unquote adaptive management is really working hand in hand to make sure that the customers have access to this. We have a contractor who's very willing and able and wanting to serve these customers. They're not having an issue with the supply chain, so it's good to see that they're able to accommodate it, and making sure that we maintain that quality, of course, for the customers on the back end. John, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention in regards to the contractor, there's also been a good number of inspections of the projects that they've submitted. So it's, and they've passed all those inspections, and they're doing good work. So it's really awesome to see that. Thank
you, John. Yeah, I guess I suggested that, but I didn't outright say it. That's exactly the point, is that quality control is that we're trying to make sure that they're monitoring that and maintaining it. So we actually we do some quality control inspections internally from Cascade, and then we have a contractor on the east side of the mountains who performs some on our behalf as well. So we've been coordinating with them, to make sure that they are all, not all, but a good portion of the projects that have been submitted from this contractor have been QC checked, like in person in the home, walking through, making sure that they're meeting all the requirements. And we've talked about this before, but I'll mention we have kind of three forms, or I guess it's actually kind of four forms of quality control check that we do for our programs. On the residential front, John leads our quality virtual verification. Excuse me, sorry, John, I knew I was going to say that wrong. Our virtual verification, so that's where we perform a quality control inspection via an online application to make sure that customers are getting essentially what we're hoping that they get out of their installations. John has a whole process in place. Again, I mentioned the software package that he uses to go through a whole quality verification with some of the customers. We also do quality control inspections in person, and John and Sheila perform those on our behalf. And that's if there's a project that's been red flagged or there's a reason that we would need to go in and verify. And then in addition, we've got this third-party contractor that I mentioned on the east side who will go in person and do inspections, and then obviously gives us a breakdown of how the inspection went, and Sheila will circle back around with them if needed for any corrections. And then on the commercial industrial side, I think Brady could speak to this better, but his team will actually do quality control inspections in person. They don't call them quality control inspections. Brady, what do you call them? Like, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Post-installation verifications.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's some measurements it's for $5,000 and above, and some measurements it's for $10,000 and above, just depending on the type of measure that's involved. So
exactly. Thank you. And go ahead, Carrie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to put John on the spot. Actually, I'm going to put John on the spot if he's willing. He had some interesting anecdotal information to share about the customer experience on the virtual verification that maybe he could speak to briefly before we move on.
Yeah, happy to speak to that. With the virtual verifications, overall, it's just been an awesome way to increase the number of inspections that we're able to get around to. But it also offers a great opportunity to gather some information from our customers. And some of it was already established with the in-person inspections that we were performing. Trying to drill down and understand what kind of experience they had with the contractor, why they chose that contractor, have been some little tidbits of information that we've been able to collect. And now I'm looking at expanding that a little bit to include a couple of questions in regards to satisfaction with the rebate program overall, the application process, and just trying to also gauge how much the rebate influenced the customer. So while this isn't a formalized part of the process yet, it is something that I am working on building out. So I'm hoping that it'll really present some opportunities to gain some good insight from our customers about what makes rebates successful and what draws people towards them.
And I think, John, you mentioned that surprisingly, the technology wasn't a barrier for some of the older customers.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. I'll just confess and say that was a bias I had up front, which is proving to be, unfounded. I've been pleasantly surprised that almost everyone is savvy enough with smartphones at this point that they're able to operate a video call, and folks have actually really been enjoying it. Saves them time, and it means there's one less person they have to open their home to, so or at least open it to them in person. But that has been something that's really awesome. I will also say Vimotely did a great job improving. They came out with a version 2 of their platform this year, and it is far and away better than their initial offering. So overall, it's just been awesome to see the experience improve for myself and also for the customers.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Carrie and John. That's really good insights. And this is the type of data points, I should say, that'll help feed into our end of cycle EM&D. And that's kind of a lead into what Kayla will be talking about later today. But we at the end of the biennial conservation planning cycle, Cascade's going to engage in a full program evaluation of our programs, and that's the type of information that they're going to need. The third party is going to need when they come in and review our programs is that type of survey type questions that John's mentioning. How effective was the program? Did it help drive your decisions? These types of things are important as we look at improvements and really picking up the savings potential for our programs. Thank you, John.
Yeah, happy to share that.
There are a couple of additional notes on here outside of the residential point of sale program. I will mention that the Trade Ally Connect portal, which is also one of those online access points that we mentioned, this is specifically for our trade allies. We're going to start using that to enroll additional trade allies in the POS program. So that's an exciting feature that we're hoping to have soon. And then we're very happy to say that Pardeep, who introduced herself at the beginning of the call, is going to continue with our program and through the heating season to help us with that processing so we don't fall behind on processing. Get the applications in. We're trying to get them in as fast as possible. So we have committed to continuing with her through the heating season so that we have that support. So thank you, Pardeep, so much for your continued support and partnership. And we look forward to having a busy heating season with you. I wanted to note as well, here's some of the residential outreach pieces pieces that we send out. These are courtesy of Taylor. She does the layout for all of our outreach pieces. I'll also mention, Lexi introduced herself at the beginning of this call, but Lexi is our new outreach coordinator. So she is out there in the field. She's talking to our contractors and she's talking to some of our customers and just coordinating with some of our internal partners as well through business development. Ted McCammett mentioned that he's on the call as well. He's the business development manager for Cascade. She's out there, she's coordinating, she's making sure that we're getting our message to our customers and partnering quite a bit with Taylor on what that message is. So Taylor has a couple of outreach pieces here with you to show you. We've got our Central Washington Home Builders Association ad that we sent in. We've got a Longview summer directory ad. We've got a couple of magazine ads that we send out as well. So really, again, just taking on as many, not as many, but many, a varied approach to how we get our message out, let's say. It's much more strategic than it used to be. We're trying to be very focused. We're also trying some new avenues that we haven't in the past. And Lexi's been doing a great job of kind of stretching the boundaries outside of, hey, I know you've always done this, but let's look at this. Have you considered this? Have you considered this? So it's great to have that new kind of a new look at what else can we do and should we be doing and how can we change some of that messaging. So Lexi and Taylor have been great partners in that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we improve our outreach moving forward. I'm sure we'll have some exciting pieces and just insights into our campaigns in the next couple of advisory group meetings to share with you. Okay, I think are there any questions about what's in the agenda as far as where we're at with the program accomplishments year to date for the residential program? Or if Jocelyn, you'd like to add anything specifically to what I've said, that would be great too.
Well, my first, Amy has a question in the chat.
Oh, thank you. I did not see that at all.
And this is Amy. I didn't want to disrupt the flow, but I was reflecting that it would be, since it sounds like that one trade ally is having such good success, I was just curious to see like some of the materials they provide to customers, if that's possible.
No, that's a great question, Amy. Sheila's actually working with that trade ally right now on a door-to-door piece for them to share. Sheila, that's probably on my plate, isn't it, for the final review on that?
So we have a nice draft presented to you, and then we can just add some graphics if we want. But we do have the text of the message ready for your review.
So, Amy, once we get that finalized, I'd be happy to send a copy to you and the rest of the CAG as an example. Sheila, would you, or actually, Des, would you note that as a follow-up for Sheila and I?
Got it.
And just to give you a little context, Amy, it's some of the messaging that they're doing. A lot of it's the approach on how they're doing it. Is like I mentioned, they actually go door to door, and most of our contractors don't do that. Actually, a lot of contractors right now are overworked, or maybe I should say overbooked, and they're not actively seeking the work as much as it's coming to them, and they're more reactive. This particular contractor is very proactive. They are going out there to customers' homes and representing the program. And to your point, of course, you're asking what kind of messaging are they using that's helping sell the program. So we've worked with them a couple times on making sure that it's very clear. It's not free installation, it's not this, and they're not actually Cascade. They're a contractor who uses the Cascade program. Making sure that messaging is really clear, so the customers understand that they're working with that contractor, and that it's the Cascade program. So yeah, we're happy to follow up with you on that.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I have I get door to door salesmen sometimes, and I'm always like very not interested, I guess. It's like a kind of, so I'm curious how it's working so well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? It's like there's always that skeptical question of, are you legitimate? And we have we've really had some, let's say, a bumpy road with this approach in the past. So Sheila's been doing a great job of really holding this contractor's hand to say, okay, wait, you gotta be careful with this message. You gotta be careful with this. We gotta make sure that it's really clear for the customers that they're protected, that the quality is still met on the program, and they have not had a quality problem, which is really phenomenal. That we've had some, making sure the messaging is clear questions here and there, but the quality has been really good, and that's the prudence, is making sure that they're meeting that quality standard for the customers from what we can determine. So because we've gotten that far, we're still, working with them on that front. Excuse me. And I think Jocelyn even made a point here. There was a couple of questions about, were they legitimate? Were they actually working with Cascade? But I haven't seen a lot of that recently, because we have been working with them on the messaging to make sure it's clear to them, what their role is as far as the program's concerned. Carrie, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I guess I don't see Jocelyn's hand up anymore. They go by neighborhood, and I really think that I mean, over in Europe they've tried that with varying success, but the word of mouth, I think, is very powerful for them. So if they can get uptake in a neighborhood, and go in and do the job and get it done quickly and well, then we see that others in the neighborhood then are much more interested in just that kind of neighborhood trust works in their favor.
That's a really good point, Carrie. And I think what I didn't mention, and I probably should have right at the beginning, is that these rebates for their installation rebates, combined with some prescriptive air sealing, it's almost covering the cost of the job for the customers. So it's not free installation. We do not promote that phrasing, and it still is. They still end up owing a little bit, but we're covering the vast majority. I would say over 80% of the cost for the customer to get their homes insulated. So obviously it needs to fit within the program criteria. It needs to meet, the beginning, ending, R value requirements. But it's a really good deal for the customers who are able to take us up on it. And then if you add in that point of sale discount, it's not like the customer is having to pay a bunch and then wait and then get their money back later. It's really it's the contractor who's getting reimbursed from us now because of the point of sale. And so it really is a fairly painless, from that perspective, proposal for the customer, assuming that they believe it's legitimate on the contractor's behalf. And this contractor has been very supportive of the customer. So again, it's not, there's always a couple of bumps here and there, but this one's been really good about working with us on whatever concerns that have popped up. and he's been very responsive when we've had any questions. So it's been a pretty good experience, and we're hoping to continue it. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to the low income weatherization update. I think we've got one here. I want to do a quick time check. We've got a couple guests who are going to join us at 10:30. So what I would like to do is touch base on the low income program, see if there's any questions. If possible, I'd like to take a few minute break and then we'll jump back on 10:30, but we'll see how long the low income program discussion takes. Sheila, would you like to go ahead and start that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a little snapshot here. This is cumulative January through August of 2022. And we're just kind of, we haven't really seen an increase in projects, but we are moving consistently, I would say, I don't know, 5 or 8 projects per quarter. We have a few things pending that could tip the scales a bit. We just got an application for 44 furnaces through the Sunnyside Housing Authority, who worked with the Northwest Community Action on that project. So that'll show up as a higher number count. I'm not really sure, what the agencies need to do more work. It's probably staff, because they, if you're going to work on gas heated homes, it takes a bit more time. There has to be daily testing in and out, combustion safety. So it takes more time and it takes a little more skill, but I expect we'll probably end up with around 40 projects at the end of the year. So I'll let you read through the slide here, and if you have any questions about how things are going, please ask away. I'm here to answer anything you might inquire about.
So I think, Sheila, the one kind of pending question is, when are we going to schedule that all agency meeting we talked about in the last quarter?
We're going to schedule that for the end of October, and I'll be sending out a Survey Monkey this week, and the meeting will land somewhere in the last 2 weeks of October.
And
so go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, there was just one other pending thing. Is we did mention that Cascade is going to be backfilling that manager role to oversee the low income programs. That's still in process. So we're still planning on having a manager, alternative to me, not me, with oversight and really focusing on this low income program for both Washington and Oregon. So that is still a work in progress for Cascade.
Yeah. Very good.
Are there any other thoughts, questions, comments on the low income program? I will say there's a couple things on the low income program that we want to do, towards the Q4 leading into next year. And I'm not sure, it's going to be dependent on that manager and what they're able to prioritize. There is a review of the low income savings potential for our programs that we have planned with Applied Energy Group. And that's cross-referencing what the last conservation potential assessment noted per measure for the low-income homes, as far as the savings potential per measure versus what our low-income program is currently claiming for those measures. So we have that analysis planned and contracted with AEG, and we need that manager in place to be able to lead that effort. So that's something that we would like to have working in Q4. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that or if it's going to be pushed into Q1 of next year, but that's definitely on our horizon for the program review. And then we'd also talked about at one point reevaluating the way that the EWIP, which is the Enhanced Weatherization Incentive Program, and the Weatherization Program are actually calculated. The application itself, it's a little bit convoluted. Sheila does everything she can to work with those agencies so that it makes it as easy as possible for them, but it's still a fairly involved application process. Our goal in the long run is to make it simpler, to simplify it and still get obviously the savings that we need, make sure the agencies are getting what they need, and making sure that we're tracking so that we have all of the information that we need on our end. So that's on our radar for the next 6 months or so to try to improve that. And obviously we'll work with the advisory group on that, what that looks like. Okay. I'm not hearing any questions. So with that in mind, I would like us to take a break. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. We'll come back at 10:30 and we should have our guests on with us at that point, and then we'll go into our residential pilot discussion. So thanks so much with your patience so far and your participation, and I look forward to talking to you again in a few minutes. That'll be about 10:30.
I just want to remind everybody that the recording and the transcription are in progress.
Thank you, Des.
You're welcome.
All right. So you should be seeing residential highlights. Residential pilots, highlights again. We also, let's see here, I don't see our guests on yet, Des. I'm not seeing them in the.
Not at this time.
Yeah, okay. So maybe, I know they're going to be on around 10:30. So we've got two different residential pilots. I'm so sorry, I can't seem to say pilots today. Two residential pilots we wanted to address. As part of that, we have a behavioral residential program pilot that we're going to talk about, and then we have aero barrier pilot that John Storvick is going to lead on our behalf. And then after that, we'll talk about our commercial pilot updates that Brady is going to lead. So on the residential pilot side, what I'd like to do first is introduce a couple of guests that we have joining us today. Good morning. We've got Aaron and Alex. Would you like to introduce yourself, gentlemen?
Hi, yeah, thanks for the introduction. Aaron, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah, it took me a second to find the unmute button there. Hey everyone, good to meet you all. My name is Aaron Savati from Energy X. I head up business development here at the organization. The background on me, my background is in residential mechanical services primarily, HVAC and electrical, and spent some time doing and running mechanical as well as behavioral programs across Canada.
Thanks, Aaron. My name's Alex Cornelio. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO of Energy X Solutions. Just some quick background on Energy X. We're a technology company. We operate all across North America, coast to coast, top to bottom. So we've got products in market from Yukon territories in northern Canada all the way down to southern Louisiana, and then from California to Massachusetts. We also do a little bit of work in Europe. We work in the UK and in Portugal. And essentially what we provide are technology platforms and services that help to engage customers. Certainly one of the areas that we're active in is delivering home energy reports that serve a role in pilots such as the one being proposed today, behavioral pilots. So happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us to the meeting. And if there's any questions about what's going to be proposed here, we're happy to answer as best we can. So thank you.
Thank you both. I really appreciate you joining us. So just to give the advisory group a little bit of context, actually, let me step back. Aaron and Alex, I normally would be on camera. I'm not sounding like I need to be today. So my apologies for not welcoming you in face to face, but you wouldn't enjoy it today anyway. So.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
No worries at all.
All right. So to give the advisory group a little bit of context, Cascade is engaging in a couple of pilot efforts as part of the biennial conservation plan conditions documents that we had signed off on with the commission. One of them was, we needed to engage in more pilots, and we needed to first off budget for them and then engage in them throughout the year in an effort to increase, obviously, program uptake. Try some new technologies, try some new things, think outside of the box of what we've done in the past. And one of those areas that was identified as a gap for Cascade was behavioral change. We have not looked for specific energy savings, or at least looked to claim energy savings for promoting behavioral change through our customers, as much as we have, that actual measure installation. So we've been dependent on the customer to install specific measures, and then that measure has been in place, and then we've claimed the savings from that specific measure. Of course, there is behavioral associated with using that measure, but we've been, more dependent on the physical installations. So with Cascade needing to think a little bit broader as far as what is available for us to help the customers to save energy, we're not just looking at, giving tips and tricks or not tricks, I'm sorry, low cost, no cost options for customers. This is more of actually trying to drive some behavioral change. And one of those first steps is this home energy report sort of approach. So we have been researching for quite a while now on some options for Cascade. Obviously, we need something that fits within what we're looking at from our program. We need to look at what's available from different organizations for behavioral change options, programs that have been used from other regional utilities, other providers, and we came to EnergyX with, hey, I'd love to see this. Here's my pie in the sky. What could I possibly get? We'd love to see, help promote behavioral change. We know that there needs to be some oversight over it. How do we claim savings from it? Assuming that savings are actually met. What's the expectation? What do we see from the region as far as and nationally? It's not just regionally, right? We want to branch out a little bit and see what else is out there. And so EnergyX, has been a really great partner in helping us explore what could we do. How could we promote a behavioral change pilot through a home energy report kind of platform. And so what you see here on the slide in front of you is just kind of an explanation of a little bit of what we're looking at. And EnergyX, Aaron and Alex are kind enough to be on the call and answer some questions as we kind of go through this. On what the proposal is. Obviously, like I mentioned, we have looked at other options, so we'd be happy to talk about that as well. This is kind of our first pass at it with the advisory group here, and we would really like to get moving on it for this biennium as well, because we want to get this in place. We want to work with our customers, and we have to get started now, right? Behavior change doesn't just happen right away. You have to kind of reinforce the message over and over. So anyway, I'll start here. So what is a home energy report? So it's a brief that utilities send to consumers, and it's specifically on their energy use, right? So when these are sent out, it's essentially using a comparison with social norms to stimulate consumers to take recommended actions to minimize energy use. For Cascade, we've got a couple of goals here, right? Spread awareness of the programs to our customers. Keeping in mind, Cascade, as I mentioned earlier today, is a very rural, we have a very rural service territory. That's not everybody, of course, but overall our programs are spread out across the state, and they're in fairly rural territories. So it's important we keep that in mind when we're talking about behavioral change. And then we want to drive additional energy savings through that behavior change. And what does it look like? It's that no cost, low cost actions that customers can take in key areas of energy consumption that are personalized per consumer basis according to building characteristics. We've got consumption levels, monthly or seasonal areas of interest, and of course they're designed to maximize that return, i.e. those energy savings based on the building's operating potential. And so what you'll see here is a really nice graphic that EnergyX was kind enough to provide to us. You've got your different levels of what the proposal is for the work that they could do for us. So we've got, you identify and analyze the building and consumer data to generalize personalized recommendations. We look for accurate recommendations, of course. And then you move to that engagement. Is how are you going to engage that customer? You want to boost engagement and stimulate that behavior change. I'll let EnergyX kind of speak to this in a second here, but it's, how are you going to boost it? We've got a home energy report, but what does that really mean? And then obviously it's personalized, right? So it's looking at that customer specifically. So there's some customer data that's included in the analysis. And, what kind of insights does that then provide to us and the customer for future analysis, for program management, for design of our programs moving forward, and what kind of savings can we claim, or would we potentially claim for this type of work? So typical households can reasonably expect to save, let's say, approximately 10% of energy consumption through behavior change. and 40% of energy consumption through deep energy retrofits. So that's just a general statement. The goal with any program is to drive as much behavior change as possible, and then to convert that behavior change into structural building improvements. So when estimating savings potential for this program, and Aaron and Alex, keep me honest on this, we're estimating savings potential. Let's see, we start with a simple model of driving about 10% energy reduction for 25% of our treatment population. So this model is based on historically achieved conversion rates that roughly equate to 70% of the treatment population taking action roughly 1/3 of the time. So overall, what does that mean? That's a lot of percentages that I threw out there, but when we're talking about savings potential, so maybe drive energy savings of 2 to 3% across our treatment population that would receive the home energy report over the course of a pilot. So the number of customers that we're looking at for the population, the length of the pilot, these are two things that are, part of a proposal that we're talking about with EnergyX. But overall, 2 to 3% savings across that whole population. That's averaged out, right? That's what we're looking for in this particular effort proposal. I'm just making a note here. I think Des noted this earlier and I kind of missed it, but Aaron and Alex, please know that we are recording and transcribing. Just so, we said it to everybody else, but wanted you to be aware of it as well.
Thanks, that's fine. Okay,
thank you. So let me just move on to the next one and then we'll circle back around. So when we're talking about the methodology for this home energy report, since a customer is invited to complete a detailed online energy assessment, right? Access to personalized recommendations. So they then are given access to personalized recommendations to reduce their energy consumption. And through that, we connect them with additional programs, promotions, and services. EnergyX then specializes in collecting and integrating that building data in the analysis, presenting it to consumers in that home energy report. They supplement the consumption information with building data. EnergyX then generates reports that recommend only actions that are relevant for that consumer's building situation. And as I mentioned, there's the potential to drive aggregate savings, again, at the aggregate level of 2 to 3% across that treatment population. I think I've spoken a lot, so I'm going to stop there. What I would love to do is give EnergyX a couple opportunities to correct anything that I misstated. I'd love to hear some feedback from our advisory group on your thoughts on the behavioral pilot. Our desire is to get going on this pretty quickly because we really want to be able to have enough time to be able to really incorporate this into this biennium, which means we got to get moving pretty quick. But I'd love to hear some questions, comments, feedback. And before I go into that, though, Aaron, Alex, please correct anything I misstated or add anything that you think could be really relevant to just kind of presenting what we're talking about for our advisory group here.
Aaron, I'll let you go, but everything sounded pretty accurate to me.
Nothing to correct. Yeah, everything there sounded fantastic. So thank you for providing that overview there. I think a point that you mentioned earlier and something that's incredibly important to us was on that last slide and really focused very much on right here of the cyclical journey that we want customers to go through, and our one of our biggest, if not our biggest, priority here at EnergyX is being able to provide recommendations to customers that are relevant to them, the right program, the right measure, the right behavior change at the right time, and being able to leverage data that we have on customers to deliver that really exceptionally world-class experience to them, so that we're positioning utilities, we're positioning Cascade as a true trusted advisor, as opposed to what typically happens in the space of providing sort of generic and blanket recommendations to a group of customers. By leveraging a lot of the data that's available, not only consumption data, but also leveraging tools like My Energy Expert, which is our online energy assessment tool, we were able to take that and feed that into our engine, which is then able to create a lot of these personalized experiences and recommendations at scale. So every piece that you see here does not follow a linear process. It is very much iterative throughout the entire course of the pilot and or the program, so that those recommendations are constantly improving and increasing in accuracy. So a very simple example of that, just to put it into a real world application, would be if we determine that a customer has a 7-year-old furnace, right? And we've identified that the average lifespan of that particular furnace may be 10 years, then we're not going to go ahead and recommend necessarily for a customer to upgrade to a newer high efficiency furnace, for example. Rather, we store that data. We identify that in 3 years, this customer is going to be able to retrofit this particular furnace and stand to save considerably more and have a stronger payback. Now, that's on a physical retrofit side. From a behavioral perspective, we can really get so much more as detailed, rather, as we track consumption and identify the actions that are being taken from a customer, and really nudge them towards those particular behavioral recommendations that we believe would best benefit that customer at the right time of year with that right recommendation. So the arrows in this little photo are very important because this journey never ends. Just because a particular customer completed a certain action, by no means that individual is done. There's always much more to do and much more to engage customers in. So just wanted to name that really quickly, that this is a core tenet to how we operate and something that we're really proud to be able to do.
Thank you, Aaron. Ted, do you have a question for either myself or the Energy Expos?
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how this becomes personalized. I'm not quite understanding that perspective, especially from a residential customer's perspective. I mean, do they reach out to each individual customer and literally have a conversation about how many people are in the household, what year my house is, so on and so forth?
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron, if you'd be kind enough to kind of explain what the process looks like and how we potentially identify the pilot population that we would work with.
Yeah, of course. So great question. Thanks for asking that. And I'll create a differentiation there between identifying the pilot population and identifying the opportunities that exist within a customer's home. So in terms of identifying the pilot population, that's something that we would go through together in determining an accurate and representative pilot population. But to answer the question specifically around what's in the customer's home, there's two ways to do that. One way that's typically done is deriving and making assumptions based off of consumption. However, that's not always so feasible without detailed meter data. And we've worked with a number of gas utilities and have faced this issue over and over. And the most effective way that we have in doing that is through our online energy assessment tool, which is My Energy Expert. Customers come on there, they answer some pretty simple questions, takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete. And from that simple information that a customer is submitting on the tool, we're able to then paint a really full picture of what's in their home, who's in their home, the type of actions they're taking and when they're taking them, and then create recommendations based off of what we know is in their home. So much of it is volunteered from the customer. Some of it can be derived from consumption information. And when you combine both of those together, that's when you have a really bright and really clear picture of what's taking place in the home, and then in turn what to recommend for that particular customer.
Okay,
does that answer the question?
Yeah. So what sets you apart from myself? I mean, I can tell people to turn down their furnaces, wash their clothes on cold water, use a cold water detergent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can I can recommend things just because I have a background in energy.
Right.
So what separates you apart from us just sending out something, hey, normal conservation efforts like we've done in the past?
Yeah, that's another fantastic question. I'll put in a couple pieces there, and Alex, feel free to add anything else that I'm sure I'll miss. But I think the biggest thing to start with is the ability to automate that at scale. So having one-on-one conversations with customers and making those recommendations is absolutely important, and something that I don't think will ever go away. A lot of customers will need that human interaction, and I think that will always be there. However, the magic happens is when you're able to provide that same sort of personalized experience, and doing that at scale by leveraging data, by leveraging automation, and ensuring that you're not only reaching out to an entire population group at once, which is the scale, but you're also doing that in an iterative way. So you're touching them a number of times over the course of the year. 6 times is what we find is most effective, because a singular touch point and a singular recommendation doesn't always spur on action. There is often and always needed multiple nudges, if you will, to ensure that you're pushing that customer towards that particular action. And then, of course, being able to do thousands of those customers simultaneously, essentially.
Okay.
So something we haven't mentioned, Ted, is that this is proposed to be both electronic and hard copy. So this is the customer is going to be sent information, via email, and then also like a hard copy mailer to them, a couple times during the year to try to reiterate some of these steps that they can take. So go ahead and ask the rest of your question. I just want to say I hadn't actually addressed that before. You've got that platform they're talking about where they're actually evaluating what some of those specific steps are that this customer can take. We're looking at their usage data and trying to determine that, and then we're sending out repeat messaging to that same customer to try to get them to take some of these specific actions. Once the pilot, is completed, there's savings that we can then claim based on the steps that those customers took. There's obviously there's evaluation of this process after the fact, right? We don't just say, okay, and we get X amount of savings. There's associated, steps that they would have taken, but that's essentially what the process is. So please ask your question. I apologize for interrupting you there.
No, that's fine. So how is your pilot customer base chose? Is it random?
No, Alex, I'll let you field that one because I know you've got a bit more detailed information around it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Aaron. There's lots of different ways that you can choose the pilot population, and that's a level of detail that we're still discussing about exactly how we would choose that. Typically, you want to think about it as you would any experimental methodology. Ultimately, if you're planning to roll out a behavioral program, home energy report-based behavioral program to your entire service territory, then a random selection would be ideal, as long as ultimately that random selection was representative of your entire service territory. In many cases, the utilities that we work with choose to target a more specific group of consumers. Maybe it's the top 25 or 30% of consumers in terms of amount of energy that they consume in a given year. We've seen other customers target, other utility customers that is, target consumers on the basis of geographical location. Specifically, they may want to target some of their hard to reach customers. We've also seen customers consider, or utilities consider, targeting consumers on the basis of income qualifications. The key piece is that the treatment or the pilot population needs to be representative of the group of customers within your service territory that ultimately you would like to target in the future. So we would choose the customers based on that. One of the other things that I'll mention here is that, Aaron mentioned that we typically utilize consumption information, and we typically utilize data that we collect from customers. We also have our own data lake. So we collect publicly available information about buildings in the territories where we work. And so that additional repository of information about your customers' buildings that we collect from publicly available sources would also be a tool, if you will, or a filter, maybe is a better word, that we could use to try and select a pilot population. So lots of different ways that we could do it. It really all depends on ultimately how you see the program rolling out. If you're trying to go for maximum savings, typically we target customers with higher than average consumption.
Okay. Have you have you seen a trend downward in the savings from customers over the years? As you know, it seems like everybody's trying to get everybody's information, and people are just fatigued of releasing all of their information and feeling like their entire life stories out there for everybody to understand, right down to their energy consumption?
That's a great question. I think that what we've observed at EnergyX is that certainly consumers are more savvy than they ever have been. Whereas, 10 years ago, people may not have realized that the data that they're putting on a social media site is actually the product that the social media site is selling to advertisers. Today, that's commonplace. People understand that their data is out there, that it's being used, and they're more cautious than ever. That being said, because of, or I shouldn't say because, what we've observed is that this understanding of how data is being used and how it can be useful has, in some cases, when you're transparent with consumers about why you want to use their data and what the benefit for them will be, then we've actually seen an increased willingness to participate in programs. We ran a pilot a couple of years ago in Atlantic Canada where we tested exactly that. And what we found is that by telling people that they would be participating in a study where their data was going to be used to try and identify ways that they could save, it actually stimulated above average participation. So I think that it all comes down to the intent, the transparency, and then maybe overarching all of that, it's the user experience that you're providing. If you can help customers to understand how their data is being used and show them a direct benefit, they're actually quite willing to participate, in our experience.
I think something that's a little different now than it used to be, Ted, is some of these behavioral change messages used to be like public shaming. I mean, it was literally big old green frowny face, like, you're doing a horrible job, you should do better. That's not the approach anymore. And I'm not saying EnergyX I did that. I'm talking about just as an industry, that was that public shaming approach. So now it does look at social norms, but it looks at, here's kind of where you can shine. It's more of that positive, what more can you do that'll help yourself, and how can we help you, and that kind of thing. Not, oh, you're doing horrible, and shaming people into doing better. I do believe it's a different approach, and I think that it helps people be a little more interested in participating, let's say, than trying to guilt trip them into it.
I'm just also wondering about the I mean, obviously this has nothing to do with me, but the timing of this. I mean, you look at, what just happened in, I believe it was Denver, with the smart thermostats, and people gave their information, allowed the utility company to, control their smart thermostats, and next thing you know, they're locked out at 78 degrees, and they're wondering why in the heck they gave out their information. So I'm just wondering on the timing, if we feel this is good timing given everything that's going on politically around energy.
That's a great comment there about the demand response program gone wrong, so to speak. And we were just in Denver meeting with some utilities, so that was sort of top of mind when we were there speaking to them. And I think I just want to double down here a little bit. I think that's a great example of when a lack of transparency goes wrong. Customers thought that they were getting a great deal on a smart thermostat. In reality, there was a quid pro quo happening there, that the great deal comes at the price of enrolling in these demand response programs, which clearly a number of customers did not understand what was happening. And so I think, you know, if you take the proper steps, if you have a user experience that's going to make sure customers understand exactly what's happening, then you can avoid issues like that. But yeah, that's a great example of, you know, where a lack of transparency, a lack of understanding results in backlash that you certainly don't want to deal with. I won't comment on whether or not I think that means that the timing for an initiative is like this is not right, but I still think it's a great example of customer transparency.
Well, it's a good point, Ted. It's important that we partner with external parties who have experience in this type of a messaging campaign. And it's not just the messaging, right? There's a lot more involved in it. There's the analytics behind it. I mean, we have access to the customer data, of course. We need to not just, and I think this is, it's not just having the data, it's be able to have the intelligence to use that, or the intelligence behind that data is, what does that data actually mean? And then what are the actions that we can take based on that data to help the customers, and what can the customers do? So, you know, Cascade is very well informed. We're very, you know, very capable. I also, having said that, I know it's important that we partner with external parties who have experience in this particular field to make sure that we're approaching it the right way. The messaging to the customers is really important. The type of messaging, how that's portrayed to the customers, what their next steps options are, you know, that type of thing. And that portal that they have already available that they vetted and used for other utilities as well. You know, this is an approach that has been taken with other utilities. So it's been tried. We've seen different samples of some of the messaging that other utilities have done. You know, some of them are focusing on specifically just the energy efficiency savings. Some of them are focusing on carbon reduction based on those savings. So there's how we can tailor that message is going to be you know, kind of up to how Cascade wants to tailor it. But I think that you know, it's a really excellent point. Is it needs to be a very careful message, and we need to have a trusted partner in making sure that we craft that message so that it's helpful for the customers and it doesn't turn the customers off of wanting to participate, right? So transparency in that messaging as well is immensely important.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. Very well explained. And sorry to take up so much time with my questions here.
No, that was excellent. Thank you, Ted. Carrie?
Yeah, I'm just going to pop in for one additional comment, and that's that this is not a push necessarily to the customer. We have customers, and we expect it to even increase under the energy cost structure that is evolving over the winter, who are asking what they can do to help reduce their energy consumption and what they can do to save. So I think this really provides an avenue for that, and that's one of the core missions of energy efficiency.
Maybe just a comment on top of that, Carrie, because I think it's really well said, and it's also reflected in the two goals that were stated at the beginning of this part of the presentation, I guess, is that this is an opportunity not just to help customers who are in need to reduce energy consumption or modify their behavior in a way that helps them live more comfortably or cost effectively over the winter period. But it's also a way to make sure that customers are aware of all of the opportunities that are offered by Cascade to help them. We did research a number of years ago, back in 2016, and occasionally we do the market research again just to make sure it's still the same. But it is. What we found back in 2016 and what we still find today is that the average customer believes that their utility has nothing to offer to them in the way of assistance or help or beneficial programs or rebates. When EnergyX does the analysis, we find that that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, the average customer is eligible for upwards of 10 programs that can help them to deal in an easier, more convenient way with their utility, that can help them to reduce energy consumption if that's what they're after, that can help them to qualify for incentives and other dollars that will help them improve their building. The reality is that most customers just aren't aware that these programs exist. And I think that, you know, to Carrie's point, home energy reports we've seen as a great catalyst to help inform customers about all the stuff that is out there from their utility to assist them. It's a great endeavor, but certainly it's something that, you know, as we've discussed, has to be well considered and has to be presented in the right customer experience. It has to be presented in a way that's equitable across a customer base. And it has to be presented in a way that's relevant for the individual customers. And I think that's what EnergyX strives to do. But that's just a great point, Carrie. I can't say it enough. I'll stop talking now.
I think that we have a series of questions here as well from Gil Peach. Aaron, Alex, are you able to read the chat, the questions in the chat? I could read them off if that's more helpful. But it looks like there's about 8 questions related to it. We can also follow up, of course, Gil, as an action item too.
I cannot read the chat.
Okay.
I don't want to take up too much time here.
Neither
If you
can I.
want to run through them, we can answer them, but we could also take them offline if you want.
Okay. Let me go through the questions briefly, and then maybe we can follow up if we're not able to answer them here. And I think that Amy has a question as well here, so we'll go through Gil's first, since that was the first question here. So I think the first thing that Gil was asking is, what are the data requirements for the utility CIS? Is that customer information system, Gil?
I'm gonna go on the base. Go ahead. I heard it was, and that makes a lot of sense. What are the data requirements? I'll start with everything that we like to get in an ideal situation. So that's basic information, customer contact information. So what's the customer's name and an email address, if we have that for the customer, is ideal. Certainly an address is very important, especially if we're going to be mailing them a home energy report. The other piece that is commonly provided would be consumption information. The consumption information is going to be important for program evaluation. Certainly, we want to try and see if customers are trending towards savings or not, and so we need access to some customer information, or rather, whoever's going to be evaluating the program is going to need access to that information. If you make that available, if you make the consumption information on a monthly consumption basis available to EnergyX, we would also incorporate it into the recommendations that we make on the home energy reports. Another piece of information that's sometimes helpful is whether or not customers have participated in programs in the past. So if you know that they've participated in a certain program to upgrade their furnace, well, then that's going to change how we make recommendations to them, knowing that they've participated in that program and done that work. The participation information is not required. The consumption information is technically not required because, as I mentioned, we do work to collect building data publicly. And one of the things that makes EnergyX special is that building information is very much incorporated into our recommendation algorithms and the calculations that we make about building performance. So at the most basic level, what you need to provide is the names of customers and information that allows us to contact them. Typically, consumption information is also provided. Anything beyond that is bonus.
Great, thank you. So I think the next question is, show the questions in the automated engine. What specifically feeds into that?
The types of questions that we like when we collect publicly available data, or as Aaron mentioned, when we're able to invite customers onto a an online platform to collect more specific information from the customer. The most basic information that we collect is around the size and the vintage of their building. We have algorithms then that can take that information and can draw correlations between equipment and performance, and all of that is enhanced when we get extra details around what equipment and the age of that equipment is in the home. And as I mentioned, when we get access to consumption information, that really helps us to pinpoint recommendations. But at the most basic level, what we're looking for is the relative size and the age of the building. When we go deeper, either through more publicly available data or by surveying the customer, then we look for things like confirmation of hot water heating systems, their age, their type, of course, space heating systems, insulation. Is something that we look at. Usually, we get the best information around attic insulation, but we're also able to get information about other aspects of the envelope. Sometimes windows and doors is something that we're able to collect from customers, or we're able to get through municipal permitting data. But those are the types of data that we look for.
Great. And I think the next question here is, if you need 6 contacts per year, how does that work with a household?
Well, I guess we find that, and this is something that we discussed with Monica early on too, that frequency is an important aspect. It's not the only aspect in helping people to take behavioral actions, but it's an important piece. As we mentioned before, we try to time the reports, not just to necessarily be every other month, but to align with seasons and events that are going to stimulate savings. One example would be we may not necessarily send the same frequency of reports over the summer months, because those don't always generate, those aren't necessarily seasons when people are thinking about making changes to their buildings. Shoulder seasons tend to work well, and then keying in on certain events tends to work well. If the question was more geared towards how do you make sure that the same person is receiving it, or that there's a head of household who's able to act on the recommendations, frequency helps with that, but also that's where helping to expand the user experience for the customer, where it's not just a paper report that they may be receiving, but there's also an online platform or experience where they can go deeper with the information that's being provided in the reports. That really helps. And essentially what we're doing is we're just trying to establish multiple ways of communicating with the customer, starting with paper. Sometimes starting with digital can be a really effective way to get in the door, but ultimately we want to try to communicate with the customer through as many different channels, and especially if you get someone logging in to an online platform, that can help you validate the identity of who's actually seeing these reports and interacting with the services that you're providing. I hope that answered the question, but feel free to ask a follow-up.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a follow-up real quick?
Yep, go ahead, Gil.
So I recently did a phone survey of customers for the commission in California for assessing results of energy efficiency programs. These are residential programs. And I got about a 5% response rate. And it was very difficult because, whereas in the past, long past, people were honored to be part of the survey. Now it's like a nuisance. And a whole lot of people have switched to cell phones. And you try to call them during the day and you can't get them because you can't answer it at work, or they have to answer and hang up real quick. And about the only time you can reach most people is just as they're coming home from work and starting to prepare dinner. It's just hard for me to imagine 6 calls per year and getting the same person. Mostly when I call, the people that I got were mostly retired people, the 5%, recently retired, or people who were homesick from work. So I'm just thinking that that's the type of thing I had in mind with the question. Is just that my experience is that it's not like it used to be where people would just, nobody wants to answer the phone anymore. And how do you get, maybe a kid picks up on the phone and doesn't know anything about insulation, or maybe just one person in the household knows these things and they're only there certain hours. I'm saying it's a real challenge to do that.
Yeah, no, we certainly agree wholeheartedly. And I think, what I would say there is that that's why having multiple channels of communication is really important. A lot of people think of home energy reports as, it's just a piece of paper or an informational flyer that's mailed out to the customer. And certainly that's an important piece of it. A document like that is going to be opened as if it's a bill. So you're going to get somebody's attention with that. Maybe it's even stuffed in the envelope with the bill. So you're going to get it in front of people who are decision makers in the household. If you're really lucky, a nicely designed home energy report is going to get pinned up on the fridge or somewhere else where other people in the household may see it. But we found that you don't just want to stop there. You want to make sure that you've provided a digital platform where customers can access at their leisure. They can self-serve, they can get more information, they can answer questions when the time is appropriate and convenient for them. And then once we get them through these digital channels, now we have yet another channel that we can interact with the customer. We have an email that we can send messages to and re-engage the customer through that channel, remind them to come back and use services, ask them questions about how things are going. But the key is really providing communication to the customer in a way that they can choose when and how they want to interact with it. We find the exact same thing when you try to do phone surveys with customers. Yeah, you're lucky to get a 5 to 10% response rate, and oftentimes, as you indicated, the demographics of the respondents to the survey are skewed, or they're biased towards a specific population that's able to make those responses. So the key is really coming with an approach of multiple channels. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's really important to start thinking about behavioral programs, not with a full-blown, let's go after 50,000, 100,000 customers and see what happens. No, it's very smart to start with a pilot and try to understand what those best communication channels are going to be, and how you might want to adapt things if you see the results you want to see and you're thinking of expanding the program later on.
Let me just do a time check here real quick. We've got quite a few more topics to go through. And so maybe with the remainder of Gil's questions, let's do a follow-up. To your point, Gil, it looks like most of them are relating to like the evaluation and what the expectation is to evaluate the program afterwards. You also have noted that behavioral savings can be ephemeral, and which is exactly the point that Cascades had in the past. So let's do a follow-up, Des, if you could, as an action item, for us to forward these questions to Alex and Aaron and ask if they can kind of give us a brief write-up response to Gil's questions and send that out to the CAG following this. Can we do that?
We'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. And there was one more question here. I think this one's probably a quick one to answer, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Amy had asked, when you provide energy savings recommendations, is the pilot also able to flag energy assistance programs?
I think the short answer is yes. If you provide us with information on what the qualifiers are for those type of programs, absolutely we can look for the characteristics as we're developing the recommendations for customers, and we could flag or even target customers that would fit in there. So yes.
And I think that's something that we looked at as well, Amy, for future opportunities. Is this really is something that we could look at the energy burden customers specifically and focus on if we chose to do that as either this pilot or a separate pilot. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. This is a really robust conversation. We're excited to see where it goes. I'm really sorry to kind of cut it off, but we do have some other items that are also exciting that we want to make sure and touch on in the next almost 40 minutes. So. Thank you so much, Aaron and Alex. It's been really helpful. We're going to follow up, Gil. I really appreciate your questions. We'll make sure to get you some responses to that, and then we'll let the CAG know our next steps as we go forward. Any questions, final comments before we move on to the next pilot?
Maybe just to say thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate the time you've given us and the consideration for the proposal, and we'll certainly answer your questions and get back with you. So thanks very much. And I guess Aaron and I will drop off now to respect the rest of your meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Well, I am excited to address our next pilot here. John Swervik, would you mind talking about the aero barrier?
Hey, absolutely. Just pulling up my notes right now. All right. So this is a pilot that we are currently developing, and it is for a product called Aero Barrier. And some people may have heard of this product already. If not, perhaps you've heard of a product called Aero Seal, which is using ductwork. But it is it's a method used in new homes to be able to air seal the home. And it provides a very robust pressure barrier. So it really reduces the amount of unwanted air coming in and leaving the house. And that is exactly how it saves energy. We're not bringing in cold air that we don't want to be in the house, and hot air is not leaving the house through all the tiny little holes that are just really hard to be able to address. And so it's offering that we're developing currently. We plan to be able to make the offering available in January. And it'll be an offering that is available for for 12 months, so from January to December. And then there will be a couple of months to wrap up the pilot. And I see that Amy has a question here in regards to the need for added mechanical ventilation. There exists already the need to provide mechanical ventilation when achieving certain air tightness. And so Sheila might be able to speak a little more on the current mechanical ventilation requirements, but it is something that will require homes to have mechanical ventilation for adequate indoor air quality. That being said, from our discussions with Avista, who has also offered this type of pilot, and some of the aero barrier dealers, it is something that builders are aware of, and it's part of the discussion when working with builders to have the product installed in a home. In regards to the project cost, it's looking like we probably will not reach the $75,000 for 2022. However, there is a budget of $75,000 this year and $75,000 in 2023 to support this pilot offering, and that is for the offering itself, in addition to any of the other supporting materials that we would need to develop, such as collateral, flyers, any bill insert, or any other type of messaging that we would need to engage in to promote the program. And currently, some of the project risks that exist would be that builders most likely have already determined building plans for 2023. And so there might not be enough flexibility to see it installed in 2023. I don't think that means that we will not see any participation, but certainly that will be something that is a bit of a challenge. And then in addition to that, it's a fairly new product. And so finding the contractors that can install it in every portion of our service territory will be a difficult task. That being said, we are aware of an aero barrier down in the Tri-Cities area currently. And it is also a product that has been used over here on the west side of the state, and has been talked about. I remember hearing about it first in 2019 at Built Green Home Energy Efficiency Forum. So identifying those contractors will definitely be key. Ted, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. For one, we can help you find the contractors to put this into play.
Awesome.
Two, I'm wondering what are your expected returns on this? Are you expected, or is it anticipated to go to 3 turns, 2 turns, 1 turn? What is the outcome or the hope?
Is that in regards to the
Air
the amount of savings we would see in relation to what we're investing in the pilot?
No, I'm not talking monetary. I'm talking, are we expecting this product to get our builders to this 3 air changes an hour, 2 air changes?
Oh, I see. So the product, it really comes down to what the builder is comfortable with. This product can help builders achieve passive house standard, which is less than 1 air change per hour, natural air changes per hour. And the current code requires 5 air changes per hour at natural pressure. And again, it really just comes down to how much the builder is going to want to spend to get to the lower and lower air tightness. That being said, it's regularly able to deliver 2 air changes per hour naturally. And it's fairly quick. I actually have some material on the next slide that will show exactly how it's installed in the home. So yeah, as you can see here, the way that it's installed is to use a blower door to pressurize a home. It means we have air going out of every little hole that the air can find. And then you have aerosolizers within the home that release the aerosolized sealant. And then it's just going to be blown to all of those areas where the air is trying to escape. And it'll fill every hole in the home that is the size of a nickel or less. So obviously we can't be leaving giant, gaps within the building, and builders generally are really good about that to begin with, but it's those small holes all across the home that become really difficult to be able to control. So this finds everything the size of a nickel or smaller and will seal it. And what's beneficial of using a blower door while you perform this test is you get real-time tracking of the air tightness of the home. So they can really go to whatever air tightness that they want to reach.
Hey, John, is this done prior to drywall or pre or post drywall?
It would be post drywall.
Okay.
And like I said, it finds everything. So, I mean, even if you leave a keyhole uncovered, it would be at risk of getting covered up. But it's a great product. Avista has seen some good success with their pilot offering, and they're working on making it a regular offering moving forward. So yeah, I'd just like to open it up to any questions. Actually, one more thing, just to so everyone is familiar with the pilot objectives. We want to determine if this is a cost-effective rebate for our program. While the pilot itself isn't required to be cost-effective, hopefully the outcome is we have a new cost-effective rebate to offer at the end of this. Additionally, we would like to gather data from builders with a participation study, and that specifically would be to understand, what exactly about this product made you feel that you wanted to change your building practice. That's something that we see is somewhat difficult to enable, is getting that change in building practices. So learning if there's anything about this specific product that we can seek in other offerings. And additionally, delivering education on indoor air quality, the time savings that this product can offer, and the energy savings as well. And that would be to builders and additionally other contractors. And yeah, so looks like you're asking, what is the average cost per home? Oh gosh, I have to pull this up. Ted, I might have to get back to you on that with a more precise number, but it is currently, I believe the cost is a couple of $1,000s.
So Des, we can put that as a to-do follow-up for John to confirm average cost per home.
Are there any other questions about the pilot offering? All right. Well, thank you for your time, everyone. Certainly, really looking forward to getting this one out there. You know, we're continuously trying to find new offerings to offer in new homes, and so I think this is a great candidate for it. And yeah, thank you.
It was great,
job,
John. Thank you. Okay, we're going to talk about our commercial pilot update. Brady, are you able to provide that update, please?
I am indeed. So we have several things. I'll kind of go quickly and kind of high level, but we have a radiant heating focus for 2022. We have the underserved customers that I spoke a little bit about earlier, the midstream program, demand control, ventilation for makeup air units and kitchens, gas fryers, and then SEM. I've kind of covered SEM. Well, I did cover SEM last quarterly meeting. We haven't had a lot of new developments, although we do have some partners who are working on some ways of, especially in light of the discussion that Monica had mentioned regarding the rural nature of the program, some ways that we could develop a potential program that would be directly kind of for fine-tuning boilers and things like that. So hopefully more to follow on that. We have some really cool opportunities there. I did talk a little bit about the underserved customers, Spanish-speaking commercial customers, as well as Longview and that area of Zone 2. We have, for lack of a better term, hired someone to do more outreach than had been done previously down in Longview area in Zone 2, and we've had good success. We're tracking to exceed 2021 numbers in that area. Actually, I think we've already exceeded where we completed last year. And then regarding the Spanish-speaking commercial customers, again, I'll give you a little bit more of an update once we kind of do a debrief of the project itself or the outreach. But the outreach was a 2-month streaming campaign. It's two-month streaming campaigns that just finished up in September. So I'll go a little bit more in depth on the radiant heating. Right now, we're about double where we were at this point last year in terms of radiant heating, therms achieved through radiant heating. This is both, well, it's mostly due to the partnership with Space Ray, which is a manufacturer out of North Carolina, and they recently, shortly after we connected with Space Ray, they hired a manufacturer's rep to promote their product. They're based in Seattle, so I've met with them several times this year. They have a lot of projects that are real close to popping, but have been getting a little bit of pushback on whether to go electric from customers, whether to go electric or gas, and so we've been doing good promotion with Space Ray. And then the radiant heating and insulation bundle is kind of a play off of what we did with the recovery last year, where we offered an additional 10% in incentives if customers did 3 or more measures. This year, we're offering it to customers who do radiant heating and insulation in one project or same time frame. So we have not had any specific radiant heating and insulation bundles, but I think that's more of a long-term play of promotion of kind of the whole, I don't want to say whole building approach, because it's, 2 areas, one weatherization and one HVAC, but I think we're going to get more opportunity with that, with those specific measures. So the midstream tankless program, I actually we are involved with, let's see, I think 5 of the largest 6 distributors in the state of Washington, and I just had a meeting yesterday with kind of the 6th, the other large distributor that is not participating in the program currently, and they are interested in joining. So we'll hopefully get that finalized over the next in the coming weeks. But we've had no specific projects come from the midstream tankless program, but we have had an increase in tankless units overall. And I think regarding the therms, we're pretty close to 2021 output and probably are likely to exceed. So not specifically for midstream, excuse me. But as I mentioned, customers can also apply for those incentives. So we've been promoting that pretty heavily through our outreach program. So more to follow on midstream, certainly after this quarter, kind of the future of how we're going to continue to promote that and whether we'll continue with a midstream. And for those who don't know, a midstream is kind of a distributor model where we offer the incentive to the distributor, who then passes it on to contractors and then ultimately the customer. So demand control, kitchen hood, makeup air units, that is something that we're researching this year and plan to implement in 2023. We are seeing this pop up in a lot of places. We're seeing it at new construction, retrofit. We've done these traditionally as custom. Well, not traditionally, we've only done them as custom. The idea is to move this into a prescriptive or a standard offering for customers. So based on the size of the unit, based on the application, we would offer this as a prescriptive measure. We think that will help with uptake. And like I said, we're hoping to get that installed or running in 2023. And lastly, gas fryers. As you all know, the incentive on fryers sunsetted for us this year. And so Monica, Carrie, and I have talked to some other utilities around the country and kind of explored trying to come up with creative ways to promote gas fryers, even though they're not technically eligible for incentives. We've hit a little bit of a snag in terms of the baseline requirement of the state being Energy Star and how we could potentially incentivize moving forward. I wouldn't say that there's no opportunity in the future, but at this point, I don't think we have found a solution that will ultimately lead to us being able to leverage any gas savings out of fryers right now. But that's something we're going to continue to consider moving forward. So, Monica, anything you want to add or any questions from any members of the CAG?
There's nothing I need to add on my end, Brady, outside of saying, we're still looking at the gas fryers and how some of our fellow utilities are addressing them right now. So, and as everybody knows, when we're talking about gas fryers, we don't just mean promoting gas fryers, we mean high efficient gas fryers, customers using those above and beyond, their existing standard efficiency equipment. So it doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's my caveat.
Good clarification. Cool. I know that was much shorter. I know we didn't also have a guest. I'm not a guest. I'm a member. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions to this now or certainly in the future. I am really looking forward to an SEM program. We kind of outlined what a program is for the commercial industrial. Being a gas-only utility, it's a little slightly different than a lot of utilities that do offer SEM programs, but I think we might have some cool opportunities for that for the remainder of 2022 and definitely into 2023. So.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Brady. I'm not hearing any questions from anybody else. I think we'll move on to the next item here. We have a budget update. John, I think I'm going to ask you to go ahead and present here. And I will support you. Are you comfortable with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm also pulling up my notes for this one right now. Just to start out, this is some language that we do have from the BCP, or the Biennial Conservation Plan conditions document. It's really just saying that we need to let the advisory group know when we anticipate spending 120% or less than 80% of the annual budget, which could potentially be the case for one of the programs and possibly the portfolio at large. If you could please advance to the next slide. All right, thank you. So here's an update on the commercial budgets and a couple of scenarios. or sorry, not an update on the budget. So we'll get to that later, but just some scenarios that we're looking at. So under the first scenario, we'd be meeting goal. As Brady pointed out earlier, it's not looking like we are going to get to goal. However, if we did, this is what it would look like. We'd be paying around $3.92 per deemed therm, which has been the average cost per therm so far this year. The UCT ratio would be coming out to just about what we predicted it would be in the BCP, with the admin budget coming in just slightly below anticipated, and the estimated rebate cost being quite far below what we would have anticipated. And really that is just down to the makeup of the rebates that we've seen so far. They've just generally been more cost effective than we had anticipated that they would be. And so this is why the rebate spending would be about 2/3 of what was anticipated. And overall, that would put us at 76% of program spending. The next thing I'd like to just mention is that the commercial program has surpassed the minimum therms to be cost effective in 22. Now that does assume that we will not, go and spend a whole crazy amount of our admin budget, more than we anticipate. I mean, you can see even in the meet goal scenario, we are anticipated to come in about on pace with the admin budget. So, but just wanted to provide that caveat. But the program will be cost effective this year. And then on the right side, we can see that the low end forecast is currently at 71% of goal. The UCT ratio, again, is right about where we anticipated it would be. And the admin budget will come in at about 81%. The rebate cost will be around, will be 48%. And program spending overall would be at 56% at the end of the year. And that would assume, in addition to around $940,000 in current admin spending, there is $200,000 allocated for pilots. There's a small portion of the salary expense that will be allocated to that. And additionally, around $260,000 for T&M costs for the performance of meeting 300,000 therms. Before we move on, is there any questions on the commercial budget scenarios?
John, one clarification. When you say staff costs, that's Cascade specifically versus third-party contracting through TRC.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that would be time from the EE staff spent on the commercial program. All right. Let's advance to the residential budget scenarios. What we'll see here is that, again, we're showing the same two, meeting goal and a low end forecast. Under the scenario that we do meet goal, we will be paying about $10.80 per deemed therm for the rest of the year. I make that clarification because the cost per therm did go up after the April 1st tariff. And so just want to factor in what the expected cost would be if we did meet goal. And that assumes, in addition to current admin spending of $950,000 for the residential program, there will be $75,000 for the EMV program. $175,000 has been allocated for pilots. Currently, that covers the aero barrier program and the behavioral program. And an additional $150,000 in salary expenses for EE staff, and that is Cascade staff, as Monica pointed out. The residential program has also surpassed the minimum therms to be cost effective in 2022, with the same assumption that our admin budget will come in about on target. And you can see in both these scenarios, even in the low end forecast, the admin budget is likely to be just about the same. And that is because the admin spending is, it's not directly affected by the amount of rebates paid, whereas in the in the commercial budget, you might have noticed there is a bit of a difference there, and that really comes down to the performance, for performance. And so with not meeting goal, it would be coming in a bit lower because of that. And then the low end forecast for the residential budget scenario would be at 78% of goal. And in this scenario, we would be coming in, again, a bit more or a bit less cost effective than we had anticipated in the BCP. The admin budget will remain what we would expect with meeting goal, and the rebate cost will reflect the real change in our spending, since that is the one driven by therm savings. And that would come in at around 80% of the expected budget for rebates in 2022. Overall program spending would be at $4.5 million, which is 87% of the spending. And so, again, same admin budget considerations. So before we move on to where the budgets stand currently as of August 2022, does anyone have any questions about the residential budget scenarios? All right, let's move on to the budget snapshots. And so as noted here, these are achievements as of August 31st. That is the most recently available data, or not data, the most recently available general ledger. And so that is why it is as of August 31st. And that's most recent that we're able to go. As you can see here for the residential, we're currently at about, as of August 31st, we're at 200,000 therms, or about 46% of goal. The UCT was coming in below what is anticipated. Additionally, the admin spending is about at 75% for the year, with the rebate spending being about 50% and overall program spending being at about 55% at the end of August. For the commercial snapshot, we also see that the therms are currently at around 30%. And sorry, that should be as of August 31st. They're at around 30%. The cost effectiveness is greater than what we had anticipated for the year. And additionally, the current admin spending is around 50% of the budget. The current rebate cost is at 21%, and program spending is at 38%. Are there any additional questions about the current or the budget as of August 31st?
I'm just going to add our caveat, John. John is extremely diligent, went through, has a process in place. This is not the end of year reconciliation we normally do. So these are, this is a snapshot. These are estimates. This is not exact dollars that we would be able to give you at the end of the year when we're actually doing our annual report. So he said that before, and I think everyone knows that. But again, I wanted to make that clear that these are based on a review and analysis, but it's not the end of year full reconciliation we typically do.
Thank you, Monica. Also, I would like to clarify, I misspoke saying that the residential program is less cost effective than predicted. It's more cost effective than predicted currently, and the commercial program is a bit less cost effective than anticipated. As you can see with the 2.2 versus 2.7 expected, and then for residential with the 2.1 versus 1.7 expected. So just wanted to clarify that. I mixed up those two columns.
This was so good. Thank you, John. I really appreciate the insights into where we're at as far as the budget is concerned. And we want to make sure that we meet all of our BCP, requirements. And this was one of them, is just notifying the advisory group of where we're at. Thank you. Thank you for that, John. I am going to move on just because I know we're pretty tight on time. We've got a couple more items we want to address before we head out. So the next one is just a quick IRP update. Again, this is actually fairly quick. I will note we have a technical advisory group meeting 5 coming up for both Washington and Oregon. One's this October and then one's in November. We have drafted the demand side management chapter for Washington IRP. I say we, Caleb. Big kudos to Caleb on that front. And then we'll be working on the Oregon side in coordination with the Energy Trust of Oregon here shortly. And we had the CAG 4 meeting, obviously, for both Washington and Oregon. So that's nice to have those off of our plate for right now. And then we do have the final IRP filing scheduled as well. And we have the dates for these meetings all on the agenda. As Brian Robertson was kind enough to point out, tags 1 through 4, they've already completed. We've included discussions on load forecast, avoided costs, supply side resources, DSM, Climate Commitment Act modeling for Washington, Climate Protection Plan for Oregon. And then the draft IRPs will be filed in November 24th for Washington, January 5th, 2023 for Oregon. And then the final IRPs will be filed February 24th in Washington and April 14th, 2023 for Oregon. Do you have any questions, anything like that about the IRP update? Sounds good. So, Caleb, I apologize. You've got about 5 minutes for your EM&B request for proposal update.
Yeah, sure. So I think we just have one quick slide here. So as a reminder to those in the call, during this meeting that we had previous, we actually shared an RFP, the request for proposal for that evaluation, measurement, and verification with the group. I want to say really clearly, thank you for those that were able to dedicate the time and investment in providing some feedback and edits and suggestions for us to improve upon that. A lot of industry experience on this call here, so I'm sure made that product better. In particular, I'm thinking about our UTC staff as well as some of the NIA staff that sent some edits towards our way, and we were able to incorporate a large majority of them and actually incorporate that into that final work product, which was then distributed just over a month ago, right in August. So we sent that out to a little over a dozen or so firms that were in our targeted list. Of that, we had intent to respond forms from 3 of them. An update in that matter. So we received 3 of the intent to respond forms with the RFP being sent out. However, one of those firms has declined to submit their final proposal. So we were able to receive 2 final proposals that we have in hand. As far as an initial look at them, our team will be fully reviewing, and as far as scoring, and you can see it in our upcoming milestones, getting interviews and that sort of thing scheduled. But they both look to be full, accurate, and complete. So we think we're going to have some good information coming our way here. Of those 2 firms, one of them we actually I call it our sister company with Intermountain Gas out here in Boise. They utilized them for a fairly similar energy efficiency department study and had some good success with them. The other one is actually AEG, who we also partner with on our forecasting models for savings assumptions, et cetera. So I would say a specific question to the group here on the call. Is there any input or any considerations that the CAG would like to share with us regarding AEG's ability to conduct this EM&V study, given our current relationship with their forecast that they conduct with us on a rolling basis?
And that can be if someone does have concerns or just some recommendations for us to consider. Certainly you can follow up with us in writing as well, but please bring anything up here as well.
All right, just a couple of more seconds here, but as I'm reading through the screen here, just got a short list of upcoming milestones. So that deadline for the electronic proposals has passed. Our next steps, we've got some scoring matrices to decide what our best path forward will be. It'll be inclusive of some interviews for finalists, as well as the selection process, and then the actual kickoff. Right about a month or so here is our target for that time frame. Anything else you care to add, Monica, to this process?
No, I think we're excited to move towards that next step in EM&B. This is, of course, that major level EM&B, and then we talked about that end of program year or end of biennium EM&B that we'll do, a little bit down the road. But this is our first step toward more of that third-party evaluation that we're looking towards. So thank you for leading this effort, Caleb.
Yeah, much appreciated.
So I think there's just one more topic. I don't have a slide on it, but I think Des was gonna lead this portion of it. It's our proposed meeting schedule for 2023.
Yes, hi there. So looking at the dates, if you look at your minutes that were attached, we do have the proposed dates on there for next year's meetings. So I will go over those real quick. We have January 11th for the CAG Quarter 1 meeting. We have April 19th for the CAG quarter 2 meeting. That one will be in person and via Teams. Quarter 1 we have as Teams, and of course that can always change. July 12th is for the CAG quarter 3 meeting. That one is as Teams. And then we have our base touch with the mid BCP planning. That one we have for August 9th from 10 to 11:30, and that'll be via Teams. And then the last scheduled CAG meeting that we were looking at was October 18th. That's for the CAG 4, and that would be in person and via Teams. If you would like to look over that, or I can actually put that here in the chat, I will go ahead and put those dates if you'd like to look at those. And if you see any issues or concerns or suggestions, just let me know or Monica know. If we do not hear anything back, then those are the dates we'll go with.
Thank you so much, Des.
Thank
just
you.
One point for the CAG as well. We do have that base touch meeting in there. That's specifically so that we can meet some of the new requirements of that BCP conditions document, where we've got some dates that we need to have information to our advisory group by. I think it's relating to the budget for the BCP, and some of that initial analysis has to be done a little earlier than we otherwise have done it in the past. So it's making sure that we meet our deadlines and a couple of data points. So it is a little close to the July date, but it also will help us inform that BCP in real time as we create it. So it should be a bit of a process improvement from what we've had in the past. So thank you, Tez. All right, I think that brings us up to the end of the meeting. I appreciate everyone's patience with my voice. The team did a spectacular job of picking up my slack today. Thank you again to everybody who participated in our meeting. Welcome, Jade. Very excited to have you on board. And I hope that this was as beneficial for everybody as I feel it was for me. And Gil and Amy, thank you so much for the questions and participation. Peter, it's always a pleasure to have you on board with us as well. Any final questions, comments? No, I appreciate everyone. All right, I will let you go with it being noon and wish you a very pleasant energy efficiency day. Thank you.